Two tails, one head. Yang yang. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Three tails, old yin. Two heads, one tail, young yin. I'm going to read a passage from Understanding Reality, the Taoist alchemical classic, a 10th century text on the principles of inner alchemy. Unminding. What a laugh my mind is, like a dunce, like a bumpkin, now unmoving, now ebullient, calmly letting things be as they may. I do not know how to cultivate spiritual practice, yet do not do anything wrong. I have never helped other people, yet am not self-serving either. I do not keep any rules of discipline, nor do I follow taboos. I do not know ritual or music. I do not practice benevolence and duty. What people can do, I do not understand at all. When hungry, I eat. When thirsty, I drink. When tired, I sleep. Waking, I act. When it's hot, I dress lightly. When cold, I put on more clothes. Without thought or rumination, what sorrow, what joy? No regret, no ambition, no memories, no ideas. The ups and downs of ordinary life are just inns on a journey. A tree in a forest where birds may perch also can be a simile. It does not try to prevent their coming, and does not try to stop them when they leave. Not avoiding, not seeking, no praise, no blame. I do not dislike ugliness or envy beauty. I do not run for a quiet room or run away from the bustling city. I do not speak of others' wrongs or boast when I am right. I am not solicitous of the highly placed, nor do I slight the lowly or the young. Friend and enemy, great and small, inside and outside, sadness and happiness, gain and loss, honor or insult, danger or ease, My mind does not see dualistically, but is equanimous all the same. It does not lead to fortune and does not start calamity. Sensing, it responds. Returning, it again arises. I do not fear weapons. I am not scared of wild beasts. I refer to whatever is at hand without being restricted by names. My eyes do not go to forms. Sounds do not enter my ears. Whatever appearances there may be, all belong to falsity. The forms and voices of men and women are not fixed entities. Mindless of physical appearances, I am not influenced or attached. Wandering freely, nothing can get me down. The sphere of light, of ineffable awareness shines throughout, inside and out, enfolding the four quarters without far or near. The light is not light. It is like the moon in the water. Since you cannot grasp it or throw it out, how can you compare it to anything? When you understand this sublime function, you transcend to the beyond. If anyone asks my religion, it is just this. This lengthy poem just illustrates unminding. The marvel is in unminding, by which one can be beyond the world while in the world, roaming freely, untrammeled by things. Not a particle of dust is to be admitted into people's hearts, for whenever there is any dust within, endless human mentality emerges. Once human mentality arises, one becomes capricious and loses autonomy and independence, taking the servant for the master and considering the master a servant. How then can one be free? If one can be totally unminding, imperturbable and unshakable, then one is independent. When independent, one is autonomous. Myriad ruminations cease. Entanglements do not arise. The sphere of light of ineffable awareness is all-pervasive and all-embracing, without distinction of far or near. This is true attainment of freedom, the sublime function of unminding. On the heart scripture. No sin or merit. Walking all day without ever walking. Sitting all day without ever sitting. Doing good does not make merit. Doing evil involves no sin. If people today have not clarified the mind, do not act arbitrarily clinging to these words. After dying, you will see the king of the underworld and have trouble escaping being boiled or mashed. The title says there is no sin or merit. What does this mean? Sin and merit both come from the mind. Mindfully doing evil is mindfully committing sin. Mindfully doing good is mindfully seeking merit. Good and evil, sin and merit, all exist dependent on mind. If you reach the state of mindlessness, you are not even conscious of walking or sitting. How could you be conscious of good and evil, sin and merit? This is why it says doing good does not make merit, and doing evil does not involve sin. It is like a baby, unself-consciously and unknowingly laughing happily and crying angrily, this all proceeding from mindlessness. What merit or sin is there? Mindlessness means there is no human mentality. When there is no human mentality, there naturally is the true mind. The extent of the true mind is the same as the universe, containing everything, not thinking of good, not thinking of evil. It does not commit sin, does not seek merit. It does not conceive of merit or sin. If people have not clarified the mind, the true mind, and just let their ignorant, intransigent mind act up, doing all sorts of mischief, and tell themselves there is nothing wrong, how can they avoid being boiled or mashed as a result after they die? Complete pervasion. When you have seen true emptiness, emptiness is not empty. Complete illumination pervades everywhere. Senses and objects, mind and phenomena. There's no thing at all. Only by subtle function can you know how to assimilate. The essence of true emptiness is all-pervasive, unobstructed. Its light illumines everywhere. Nothing can get by it. It is intrinsically empty without being emptied. Empty yet not empty. It is just a matter of being ever responsive yet ever tranquil yet ever responsive. Going along with it. Myriad things, every which way, confront us. Go along with them in action and repose. Leave them to their devices. Round and bright, stability and wisdom are ultimately never defiled. Just as water produces lotuses, yet the lotus itself is dry. Though this verse has 4 lines, really the meaning is in the one line. Round and bright, stability and wisdom are ultimately never defiled. Round and bright means subtle being. Stability and wisdom means true emptiness. True emptiness is naturally in myriad things, yet is not defiled by myriad things. Subtle being naturally encounters myriad things and can respond to myriad things. Ever responsive, ever tranquil, going along yet at peace. One is like a lotus, which grows from the mud yet is not dirtied. The jewel moon. The bright orb of the moon in the sky, its clear light is unobstructed in myriad lands. It cannot be gathered or dispelled. It cannot be pushed forward or backward. There is not far. Here is not near. The exterior is not outside. The interior is not inside. There is difference in sameness, sameness in difference. I ask you the mechanism. Do you understand? The essence of enlightenment, true emptiness, is complete pervasion of ineffable awareness. It's light illumining all, like the bright moon in the sky shining everywhere equally. Gather it and you do not see the light collect. Dispel it and you do not see the light disperse. Ahead, you do not see the light go forward. Behind, you do not see the light recede. As it illumines there, it does not seem far. As it illumines here, it does not seem near. Illumining the exterior, the light is not outside. Illumining the interior, the light is not inside. Gathering, dispelling, before, behind, forward, backward, there, here, far, near, exterior, interior, inside, outside. Though there is difference in the illumination, the light is the same. There is difference in sameness, sameness in difference. One root ramifies into myriad differences return to the one root. Release it and it fills the universe. Wrap it up and it hides in secrecy. Lively and active, it is like the mechanism of a marionette. Picking up the pearl. The pearl in the poor one's clothes is originally round and bright. If one does not know how to find it oneself, one will count others' treasures instead. Counting others' treasures is after all of no benefit. It just makes you expend your labor in vain. How can it compare to recognizing your own jewel, which is worth more than billions in gold? The shine of this precious pearl is most great, as it lights up all worlds in the universe. It has never been subject to diminution, but has been blocked by floating clouds. After having recognized this jewel, who would care for ephemeral illusions anymore? The pearl of Buddha is the same as one's own pearl. One's own essence returns to the ocean of the essence of Buddhahood. The pearl is not a pearl. The ocean is not an ocean. Equanimous, the measure of mind embraces the cosmos. Let the dust and clamor fill your purview. Stability and wisdom, round and bright, are always free. This is not void. This is not material. Inside and outside are clear without obstruction. The 6 psychic powers are subtle and inexhaustible, helping self and others without any end. See and you understand. Myriad tasks are done. Beyond study, you pass the days without contrivance. Calm as an infant, without a set character, active or still according to situations, without fixation. Neither stopping illusion nor cultivating truth, the ideas of truth and falsehood are all in the realm of dust. Myriad things have always been signless. In signlessness, there is the body of reality. The body of reality is the naturally so Buddha, neither a person nor a thing, so vast as to fill the universe, it is rarefied and ungraspable. Filth cannot defile it. Its light is inherently bright. There is nothing that is not born from mind. If mind is unborn, things pass away. Then you know sin and merit are basically formless. There is no Buddhahood to cultivate, no teaching to preach. The knowledge and insight of great people are naturally distinct. When they speak, they make the roar of a lion, unlike jackals discussing birth and death. The important point in this poem is the line, "If mind is unborn, things pass away." These things are the various thoughts and imaginations in the mind. If the mind is unborn, all things are empty. The pearl of essence is always shining. Stability and wisdom are round and bright. Inside and outside are clear. Ephemeral illusions are not worthy of attachment. Dust and clamor may fill the eyes, but cannot be a hindrance. Beyond study, uncontrived, one is like an unformed infant, active or still according to circumstances, without illusory images of truth or falsehood. The body of reality always exposed, the naturally so Buddha is manifest. Then it fills the universe, light shining on all worlds. What veil of floating clouds is there? Bottom trigram will be read as solid, broken, solid, which is the trigram Li, fire or light. Li is fire and light, both inner and outer. As an inner light, she is consciousness at its most lucid and unclouded, holding things together in the mind, perceiving their differences and connections and discerning the underlying patterns of relationship. And as well as vision, Li is the light that makes things visible, the power to cast light on things, spreading clarity and the awareness of order. Li is the middle daughter, living in the south, the region of midsummer and the burning sun. Our outer or top trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, broken, broken, which is Zen thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the Trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. Zen thunder above Li, fire or light, gives us hexagram. $55. Once our old yin line transforms into a yang line, that will give us a top or outer trigram for our secondary or supporting hexagram of solid, solid, broken, which I believe is dewy, lake, or marsh. Dewy is lake and marsh, abundant energy that teems with life. She is the impulse to communicate, share, and exchange, and delights in both inner and outer conversation. She brings things into circulation and gives them voice. This is the sheer enjoyment of participating in life to the full, expressing ourselves and hearing others and satisfying our desires. Lake is the youngest daughter, spirit of the fertile west and of autumn. Dewy, lake, or marsh above Li, fire or light, will give us a supporting or secondary hexagram of 49. We will start out reading from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, written in 1796. He was a Taoist adept, and Thomas Cleary's translated it. We'll start by reading the definitions in the beginning. Hexagram 55. Is richness, balance of understanding and action, preventing danger by awareness. Hexagram 49 is revolution, refining personal desires to become unselfish. To understand the answer to the question we bring to the I Ching when we consult the oracle, that question having the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits and forces, shaping this moment of time. We'll understand the answer to that when we understand how the parts of our reading work together. The key to understanding a reading is to know your way around its main components, how they fit together, and the different roles they play. If your reading includes changing lines, then you will need to understand primary hexagram, relating hexagram, and changing lines together. The two hexagrams in conversation with one another map out your whole answer. The primary hexagram shows you quite directly what your answer involves. The relating hexagram generally describes what the answer is about for you. It sets the primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. If the two hexagrams map out a landscape for you, then the changing lines stick a pin in that map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the immediate answer to your question. As the most specific, focused part of a reading, their message always takes precedence over all other elements. For example, the primary hexagram might describe a reassuringly secure situation, but a changing line could warn how insecure your position is within it. We'll start reading from the text section, which will contain our changing lines, and then we will move on to our commentary section, which does not contain our changing lines, keeping in mind that the section we read about our changing lines is the most focused part of our reading. We will then turn to a synthesis of various commentaries that was compiled by James Dekorne. I highly recommend visiting his website, which is linked in the description box below. The links to each of our hexagrams to his site will be in there. And then we will read from Hilary Barrett, the I-ming, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future, and close it off with a reading from the Tao Te Ching. Hexagram 55, Richness, our primary hexagram. Richness is developmental. Freedom from worry when the king is great is suited to midday. Explanation. Richness is fullness and greatness. Illumination and action balance each other. Illumination is great and action is great. Therefore, it is called richness. This hexagram represents operating the fire and preventing danger. It follows on the previous hexagram, gradual progress. Gradual progress means stabilization and carrying out practice according to an initiatory process, whereby one gradually advances in an orderly manner, not letting the firing process go awry. Fire is a symbol of illumination. Operating the fire means employing illumination. Illumination is the quality of awareness and perceptivity. If one can be aware, then one has the mind of Tao, and the spirit is knowing. If one can be perceptive, then there is no human mentality, and the mind is clear. With the spirit knowing and the mind clear, inwardly cultivating and subtly refining, clear about action and acting with clarity, one's illumination will grow day by day, and one's action will become greater day by day. When illumination and action are applied in concert, practice of the Tao is very easy. This is why richness is developmental. However, though richness of illumination and action is developmental, it is necessary to know when to go forward and when to withdraw, to be able to be great or small, to forestall danger and foresee peril. Only then can richness be enduring richness, can development be enduring development. This is like there being no worry when the king is great. The king represents the ease of making works lofty and great when the accomplishment of the Tao is rich and full. When one is great and knows how to preserve it, there is no worry about greatness. What path is the path of no worry? It is the path suited to midday. Day represents illumination. The middle means freedom from partiality and bias. When development of illumination is rich and full, the firing process has been completed and the medicine has been made. The kindling should be quickly removed from under the stove and the fire should be stopped. Stopping when it is appropriate to stop, illumination is not overused. When illumination is not overused, proceeding and withdrawing according to the time, firmness and flexibility balancing each other without partiality or bias, then that which is not yet rich can become so, while that which is already rich can be preserved. There's no further worry that richness may be lost. In our supporting hexagram 49, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel. It shows what the primary hexagram means for us. 49, revolution. In revolution, the sun of the self is truth. This is creative, developmental, fruitful, and perfect. Regret vanishes. Explanation. Revolution means riddance. The reason for riddance is obsolescence. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is lake, joyous, and below is fire, luminous. Joy is based on illumination, while illumination controls joy. In joy, there should be no delusion. In illumination, there should be no obscurity. Producing joy from within illumination, having illumination within joy, therefore it is called revolution. In the image of the hexagram, lake is metal, associated with the west. Fire is the fire associated with the south. Refining metal by fire, when metal meets fire, it produces brightness and is melted down. When fire meets metal, it goes into storage and returns to the root. This too is the meaning of revolution. This hexagram represents refining yin energy. It follows on the previous hexagram, exhaustion. In exhaustion, joy is produced from the midst of danger. This is how to take the true yang in water to get out of danger. However, even if you can take the true yang in water, if you cannot restore the true yin in fire, the gold elixir will not crystallize, and you will not attain joy. So this path of producing joy from within illumination is indispensable. Producing joy from within illumination is the working of refining yin energy. Refining yin energy means refining one's own personal desires to become unselfish. Humans are the most conscious of beings, born with the true energy of the patterns of yin and yang, of heaven and earth. When they are first born, they unconsciously follow the laws of the Lord, completely good with no evil. The true essence is bright and clear, the open awareness unobscured. Emotions do not stick in their hearts. Wealth and poverty do not disturb their minds. Wild beasts cannot harm them. Weapons cannot get at them. Water and fire cannot overcome them. Life and death cannot burden them. When hungry, they simply eat. When cold, they just put on clothes, without thought of or reflection. Their capacity is originally clear. Then when people reach the age of 16, yang culminates, producing yin. As they deal with things based on acquired conditioning, they develop characteristic temperaments and intellectual knowledge. At this point, only sages of superior wisdom granted by nature, when they are not opposing nature in the primal state, and when they serve nature in the temporal state, are able to preserve primal reality and not be damaged by acquired conditioning. Among mediocre and lesser people, rare are they who are not ruled and manipulated by acquired conditioning. After this, 100 anxieties confuse their minds. Myriad affairs belabor their bodies. They take the artificial to be real, abandon the true and enter the false. As the days and years go by, they become estranged by habit from what is close by nature, and the quality of clarity is damaged. The new piles up and becomes old. The pure becomes defiled. This is where the pollution of obsolescence and defilement come from. If we look into the source of the pollution of obsolescence, stagnation, and defilement, we see it all comes from having a self. Once one has a self, an ego, the mind of Tao is obscured and the human mentality arises. Conscious of what one should not be conscious of, enjoying what one should not enjoy, one goes to any lengths following personal desires. So revolution simply means overthrowing the ignorance of the self to restore illumination. But if one wants to overthrow the ignorance of the self, it is necessary that the self first be understood. Once the self is understood, one can be sincere in revolution, and the ignorance of the self can be overthrown. Therefore, in the path of revolution, the sun of the self is truth. The sun is an image of illumination, understanding. Truth means sincerity. If one does not understand, one cannot be sincere. If one can understand, one will be sincere. With understanding and sincerity, as the first thought is truthful, one will be able to overthrow and revolutionize the self. Therefore, revolution contains a path of creativity and development. However, though revolution is creative and developmental, it is necessary that revolution be correct. If right and wrong are not differentiated and true and false are not distinguished, but all are overthrown together and one enters into nihilistic quietism, this is not correct and so is not fruitful. And not being fruitful, it is not creative or developmental. Only by correct revolution, conquering the ego and returning to propriety, getting rid of falsehood and maintaining truthfulness, burning away all the pollution of conditioning and bringing to light the true essence of the primal unified awareness, reaching this state, returning to the fundamental, integrating with natural principle, pure and clean without flaw, can the regret of having a self vanish. This path is not hard to know. What is hard is to carry it out. It is simply a matter of people being able to be sincere in revolution. Back to 55, we'll read our changing line 5, which is the place of the ruler. It has the general context of strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. This again is our most focused part of our reading. It sticks a pin in the map and says you are here, or here are some places you may find yourself. It takes precedence over all other elements. Line 5 of Hexagram 55, Richness. Bringing beautification, there is glory. This is auspicious. Explanation. With flexible receptivity and balance, by emptying the mind, one can fill the belly. That's emptying the human mind and filling the belly with the Tao. Therefore, bringing beautification, there is glory. Bringing beautification means that clarity arises in openness, so spiritual illumination comes of itself. There is glory means that one's striving at the outset is not seen by anyone, but But then, when one arrives at non-striving, everyone knows. This fifth line represents the very moment of richness, when emptiness and fulfillment correspond. Illumination and action are spontaneous. The gold elixir has crystallized, and it is appropriate to take the path of non-striving, using the cultural fire for incubation. This is the richness of yielding and non-striving. We'll now read the commentary section on our primary and secondary hexagrams, which won't contain our changing line. So that was our most focused point. In the commentary section, I-ming, through Thomas Cleary now, has translated it to abundance. Thunder above, fire below. Thunder and lightning both arrive, abundant. Thus do superior people pass judgment and execute punishment. Abundance is fullness and vigor. Above is thunder, below is fire. This is the arrival of both thunder and lightning. Thunder shakes, lightning illumines. Thunder and lightning complement each other. Power and intelligence act together. This is the image of abundance. What superior people see in this is that when people in the world accept the false and abandon the real, take misery for pleasure, crave possessions and sensual stimulation, ruin their character and conduct, misbehave in 100 ways, and enter a state of benightedness, they are like criminals in prison awaiting the time when they will be executed. Looking into the source of this, it is because of not knowing how to distinguish the real from the false. Therefore, superior people emulate the shining illumination of lightning, thoroughly investigating the recondite principles of nature and life, distinguishing right and wrong like passing judgment in court. Once they have discerned the real within the false, they also distinguish the false within the real. With genuine knowledge and certain insight, they do not mistake the seeming for the true. Emulating the power of thunder, they extirpate implanted, aberrating influences and clean up their spirits, like executing punishment of criminals, liberating the innocent, executing the guilty, acting decisively and directly. They do not grant respite to insidious ills. Passing judgment means applying flexibility to minute discernment affecting knowledge. Execution means applying firmness to decisive power, acting with strength. The sage's science of nature and life, of body and mind, is twofold, involving knowledge and action. If one knows but does not act, one cannot attain the Tao. If one acts without knowledge, one mistakes nature and life. Knowing and then acting, completing knowledge with practice, proving understanding in action, someday one will master oneself and return to what is right, and all the world will revert to goodness. If students are able to judge truth and act effectively, there is no doubt that they will reach the state of abundance of qualities of the Tao, where wealth is daily renewed. And hexagram 49 in the commentary section is called change. Lake above, fire below. There is fire in a lake, changing. Thus do superior people make a calendar and clarify the seasons. Change is transformation. Above is lake, below is fire. There is fire in a lake. A lake is wet, fire is hot. If there is too much moisture, fire will dry it up. If there is too much heat, moisture will dampen it down. When moisture and fire are in the same place, the wetness and heat balance each other. Thus is the image of change. What superior people see in this is that as people establish their careers in the world, when they cannot achieve proper adjustment based on actualities and cannot adapt to the times, it is because they do not understand the principle of change of the celestial Tao and the seasons of advance and withdrawal of yin and yang. Therefore, superior people divide the various seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter with their 24 energies and 72 periods, and thus make a calendar to show that the operation of the energies of the 5 elements each has its own time, to enable people to obey heaven and accord with the time, changing any element that is excessive so that it returns to correct balance. Heaven has its times of operation. People have times when they should act. As the time changes, the way changes. So the way of change is the way of going along with the time. When one acts appropriately in concert with the time, action and inaction, preservation and elimination will not lose their proper balance. This too is one kind of celestial practice. Now to turn to James Dekorne, Hexagram 55, our primary hexagram. He calls abundance expansion of awareness. Other titles: fullness, the symbol of prosperity, greatness, abounding, richness, prolific, fruitful, luxuriant, zenith, affluence, correct action, lucid behavior. A quote from D.F. Hook: generally means that one will have enough for one's needs with a little over. Does not mean large wealth as a rule. Judgment, leg, expansion of awareness means progress and development. When the king is enlightened, there is no need to fear a change. Let him be as the sun at noon. Blowfold, abundance, success. The king inspires them. Do not be sad. It is fitting to be like the sun at its zenith. Abundance in itself is often good, but is generally followed by the waning of what was abundant. Moreover, as we shall see, there can be abundance of darkness or anything else unpleasant. The judgment itself may be taken as an auspicious omen. Ritzema/Karcher, abounding, growing. The king imagining it, no grief. Properly sun-centering. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of profusion and abundance reaching culmination. It emphasizes that exuberantly increasing things to their fullest is the adequate way to handle it. The image, leg. The superior man, in accordance with this, decides cases of litigation and apportions punishments with exactness. Wu, thunder and lightning come together. This is abundance. Thus, the Junsi, or chief son, or superior person, decides the verdicts and exacts the punishments. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. The greatness of expansion of awareness is due to movement directed by clarity. Although the king has attained this state, he must still make it greater. But there is no need for anxiety. Let him be as the sun at noon. Let his clarity shine on all under the sky. As soon as sun and moon reach zenith, their light begins to wane. The intercourse of heaven and earth alternates between abundance and scarcity. It waxes and wanes according to the seasons. How much more so with men or spiritual forces? Ritzema/Karcher translates spiritual forces as the whole range of imaginal beings both inside and outside the individual. Spiritual powers, gods, demons, ghosts, powers, fetishes. Leg. The written Chinese character denoting expansion of awareness is the symbol of being large and abundant, a condition of prosperity. In human affairs, prosperity often gives place to its opposite. The lesson of the hexagram is to show how the ruler may preserve the prosperity of his state and people. The component trigrams show motive force under the direction of intelligence. A ruler with these attributes will not fail to maintain the progress and development of his kingdom. He is told not to be anxious, but to study how he may always be like the sun at its zenith, cheering and enlightening all. It must be noted that a change has been introduced in this hexagram in explaining the symbolism of the lines. Normally, for two lines to have a correct relationship, one must be female, magnetic, and the other male, dynamic. Here, two dynamic male lines make a proper correlation in the first and fourth places. In the image, lightning appears as the natural phenomenon of which clarity is the symbol in the lower trigram. The virtues of clarity and movement are required of the superior man in judging litigation. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Don't grieve when the truth hurts. A loss of illusion is a gain in awareness. Once truly attained, enlightenment cannot be lost. It can only be increased. The superior man acts with clarity by accurately evaluating cause and effect. Or, the objective assessment of any contradiction is the road to comprehending it. The 55th hexagram is very intriguing in that it appears to have a misleading title in the original Chinese, which is usually translated as abundance, fullness, prosperity, etc. All of the internal clues plus empirical experience with the figure have convinced me that the title Expansion of Awareness is a more accurate description of the forces operating in this hexagram. Here's my reasoning. First, the component trigrams of clarity and movement portray action directed by clear comprehension, as well as awareness itself in motion or expansion. The title of abundance seems misleading because it suggests a relatively static condition, whereas the combined trigrams in the figure symbolize clear movement. These trigrams appear in reverse sequence in hexagram number 21, discernment, which symbolizes the act of comprehending, a dynamic function of consciousness described in the image here as a quest for justice. Thus, the superior man decides lawsuits and carries out punishments. Wilhelm. Notice also that the message for the superior man in this image is almost identical with that in discernment. Thus, the kings of former times made firm the laws through clearly defined penalties, also Wilhelm. The ancient kings can always be taken as symbolic of archetypal forces, the gods. So their laws are those of nature, not of humankind. Interpreted broadly, both messages counsel us to comprehend the law of Tao, or suffer the penalties of ignorance, which is to say, expand your awareness. Second, note the message in the judgment. Most of the translators render this by comparing the king at the peak of his power with the sun at the peak of its illumination at noon. The sun is the symbol of clarity and enlightenment, and the sun at its zenith therefore symbolizes a high point of awareness. Third, notice that lines 2, 3, and 4 depict an eclipse of the sun through its waxing, full, and waning phases. This suggests ignorance gradually evolving toward comprehension, which is finally attained in line 5. The progression in the hexagram is from ignorance to clarity, and then in line 6, ignorance within clarity, i.e., an image of one who remains obtuse while surrounded by the light of illumination. Fourth, The combined trigrams of shock and light, thunder and lightning, suggest a sudden and numinous illumination, the sort of enlightenment, expansion of awareness described by yogis. And here's a quote from Gopi Krishna in Kundalini, the evolutionary energy in man. Suddenly, with a roar like that of a waterfall, I felt a stream of liquid light entering my brain through the spinal cord. The illumination grew brighter and brighter, the roaring louder. I experienced a rocking sensation and then felt myself slipping out of my body, entirely enveloped in a halo of light. I was no longer myself, or to be more accurate, no longer as I knew myself to be, a small point of awareness confined in a body, but instead was a vast vehicle of consciousness in which the body was but a point, bathed in light and in a state of exaltation and happiness impossible to describe. It is possible that the written character translated into English as abundance has these associations in Chinese. Unfortunately, the title of abundance itself does not immediately suggest in the English language the ideas that are integral in the symbolism of the hexagram. And then hexagram 49, he translates as metamorphosis. Other titles might be revolution or revolutions, transformation, skinning, the bridle, the symbol of change, molting, leather, skin, molt, cut off, changing, radical change, overthrowing, judgment, leg. Metamorphosis is believed in only after it has been accomplished. Firm correctness abolishes regret and brings successful progress. Wilhelm/Baines, Revolution. On your own day you are believed, supreme success, furthering through perseverance, remorse disappears. Blofeld, Revolution. Not before the day of its completion will men have faith in it, sublime success. Determination in a righteous course brings reward, regret vanishes. Very often this means renovation as of character, etc., but it may also mean exactly what it says. Confucius, though he regarded loyalty to the ruler as one of the highest virtues, recognized that evil men forfeit their right to rule by their excesses, and it is probable that this notion antedates him by many centuries. I will be right back. Getting squirmy, way too much tea. All right. The image, leg, a fire in the marsh, the image of metamorphosis. The superior man synchronizes his astronomical calculations to clarify the times and seasons. Wilhelm/Baines, fire in the lake, the image of revolution. Thus the superior man sets the calendar in order and makes the seasons clear. Wu, there is fire below the marsh. This is reform. Thus the Junzi, or chief son, or superior person, is inspired to develop a calendrical system for keeping time. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. In metamorphosis, water and fire extinguish each other. When two daughters with opposing viewpoints live together, change is inevitable. But after the change is accomplished, faith is accorded to it. Clarity brings good cheer and progress through what is correct. When a transformation is properly accomplished, all occasion for regret disappears. Heaven and earth undergo their changes, and the four seasons complete their functions. The rulers of old transformed the state in accordance with the will of heaven and in response to the wishes of men. Great indeed is what takes place in a time of change. Leg. The written character translated as metamorphosis is used here in the sense of changing. Originally used for the skin of an animal or a bird, it received the significance of changing at a very early time. The figure deals with the subject of changes which are called for in the state of the country. The necessity for change is recognized, and hints are given as to the spirit and manner in which they should be brought about. The judgment assumes that change is viewed by people generally with suspicion and dislike, and therefore should not be made hastily. This can refer to inner complexes, habits, etc. When the necessity for change has been proven beforehand and subsequently carried out with firm correctness, then the issue will turn out satisfactorily. The lower trigram is the symbol of fire and the upper for water. Water extinguishes fire, and fire dries up water. Each changes the other. The lower trigram is also the second daughter, and the upper is the youngest daughter. In the scheme of the trigrams, these two are seen to be mutually incompatible. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Hidden within its cocoon, the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Who would believe it until the metamorphosis was complete? The superior man recognizes that celestial sequences create changes only when they are due. He therefore acts in accordance with the requirements of the times. The 49th hexagram makes an analogy between the natural metamorphosis of animal pelts and the proper way to regard radical changes in government. Lines 1, 5, and 6 all refer to skin, and 2, 3, and 4 refer to politics. The general idea is that radical transformations occur at their own natural pace. They cannot be successfully forced any more than eggs can be made to hatch before their time. The image makes this point in its reference to the celestial correlation of the seasons. A quote from Ecclesiastes 3, 1-2. There is a time for everything, a time for every occupation under heaven, a time for giving birth, a time for dying, a time for planting, a time for uprooting what has been planted, etc. Once one assumes conscious responsibility for the work, there comes a long and indefinite period in which one labors unceasingly without any visible results at all. Dream images and I-ming meditations will indicate that progress is being made, but the ego's life in space-time consists of seemingly fruitless labor in the service of a transcendental ideal. This is a universal experience. It happens to everyone who undertakes the work. In the Western mystery tradition, it is known as the dark night of the soul. See hexagram number 36 for further insights into this unavoidable phenomenon. A quote from R. Wang, the Kabbalistic Tarot. The personality undergoes a willful death, surrendering everything that it believes itself to be. Most difficult is that this total surrender of life, this initiatory sacrifice, must precede the experience of cosmic awareness. One is required to give up the totality of one's being, one's very life, in relative darkness, yet in the faith that there will be a resurrection into the light. Psychologically interpreted, metamorphosis means that changes are taking place in the unconscious psyche, but don't expect them to manifest until their growth is complete. The ego must recognize this and persevere with the work, even when common sense counsels otherwise. It is a period of probation and trial, and many there are who fail the test. A quote from ZBS Halevi in Kabbalah and Exodus. There is no shortcut without impeding growth or setting the flow pattern of the soul back until each physical or psychological function has been correctly connected or developed. Many aspirants do not perceive this law and become impatient and even lose faith when providence seems to be holding back. Nothing occurs outside its time, as it is part of a sequence in the great cosmic cycle that unfolds the grand design of existence. If there is any consolation in this terrible ordeal, it is that others have made the journey before you and survived. Keep the faith that in the imagery of this hexagram, the lower trigram of clear perception following the upper trigram of cheerfulness will lead you through the most challenging of all transformations. A quote from E.C. Whitmont in The Symbolic Quest. Where the issue of ultimate meaning is constellated, transformation will eventually occur, even though only by way of a great deal of suffering. And now back to our primary hexagram 55 to read our changing line 5. Again, this hexagram is called abundance, and in quote, parentheses, expansion of awareness. And again, the general context of line 5 is strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. We just read that previously when we were reading Hexagram 55 in James Dekorne here, that the culmination of the expansion of awareness was in line 5. So it sounds as though it's the most auspicious of the lines we could have received in a very auspicious hexagram. Line 5, leg. The 5th line, magnetic, shows its subject bringing around her the men of brilliant ability. There will be occasion for congratulation and praise. There will be good fortune. Blowfold. The variegated beauty of the sky after a storm now appears. Blessings. Unexpected or seemingly unmerited good fortune and fame are one. Good fortune. Woo. If he could welcome his notable partner, there would be something to celebrate and praise. Auspicious. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. The good fortune is the congratulation that is sure to arise. Wilhelm/Baines. It bestows blessing. Blowfold. Here, good fortune connotes the blessings already mentioned. Woo. His good fortune depends on that there is something praiseworthy. Leg. Line 5 is the ruler's place, magnetic herself, but the ruler of the trigram of movement. She can do little without assistance, but if she can bring into her service the talents of lines 1, 3, and 4, and even 2, her magnetic correlate, the results will be admirable. Nothing consolidates the prosperity of a country so much as the cooperation of the ruler and her able ministers. Notes and paraphrases. Sue. The modest ruler assembles ministers of brilliant ability around him. Especially is he attracted to men who are sound of heart and sure of getting results. Wing. Be receptive to the opinions of others. Invite counsel from the most able helpers you know. Such modesty brings unexpected good fortune and rewarding results for all concerned. Editor. Brilliant ability refers to the lines of the lower trigram of clarity which rise to assist and reinforce the central line in the trigram of movement. Wilhelm refers to these lines directly. Blofeld calls them variegated beauty. Liu, glory. Ritzema/Karcher translated as composition, a well-composed whole and its structure, beautiful creations. Slofnessy dubs it a pattern, etc. None of the translators use exactly the same term. Because this is the ruler's place, all versions implicitly refer to the imagery in the judgment. The king attains abundance. Be not sad. Be like the sun at midday. Note, however, that everyone except Blofeld places this in the future. It seems to be a coming event. If this is the only changing line, the hexagram created is number 49, metamorphosis, suggesting that an expansion of awareness may be in the offing. Comes the dawn. Quote from Jung, The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche. For it is the function of consciousness not only to recognize and assimilate the external world through the gateway of the senses, but to translate into visible reality the world within us. He breaks all of line 5 down into one succinct definition, A. You are surrounded by forces of enlightenment and lucid action is possible. Gather your wits about you. Clarity approaches. Now reading from Hilary Barrett, I-ming, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. She calls Hexagram 55. Abundance. Key questions. What are you called on to do? What decisions must you take now? Oracle. I wonder if she meant make. Abundance, creating success. The king assumes it. Do not mourn. A fitting sacrifice at noon. This is a cornucopia, a wealth of resources, but also a wealth of choices, tasks, and demands. This is the crucial moment where it all comes together. The name of the hexagram, Abundance, Fang, is also the name of the garrison city where King Wen made final preparations for the overthrow of the Shang rulers. There, Wen died, and his son Wu had to decide whether to observe the prescribed period of mourning in isolation or take command of the armies at once. He was given a sign, a total eclipse of the sun at noon. Divination revealed that it was not time for Wu to mourn. He had received heaven's mandate to conquer the Shang and should make the right offering to the earth in preparation for war, so the darkness of Shang rule would come to an end. In a time of abundance, you find that, despite what you have lost, there is a new charge given to you that leaves no place for sorrow or anxiety. It is not the time to hide yourself away and grieve the past. Decide what you will do, take it on, make the practical preparations, and march out. Image. Thunder and lightning culminate as one, abundance. A noble one decides legal proceedings and brings about punishment. Thunder and lightning come together. The storm is directly overhead. It is time for inner clarity to become action, to take the decision and accept the consequences. Sequence. Abundance follows from hexagram 54, the marrying maiden. Attaining the place where you belong naturally means greatness, and so abundance follows. The marrying maiden finds her new home in her husband's house. You may not have asked for your new situation. You may not be ready for it, but it is yours to grow into and make your own. Pair. Abundance forms a pair with hexagram 56, traveling. Abundance has many causes, few connections for the traveler. These show two ways of being at the center, responsible for making the decisions. The traveler is on his own, but here you are at the center of an abundance of resources, plans, and allies, feeling the weight of everything that led up to this point. In our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. She calls it radical change, hexagram 49. Key questions. How can you break the mold? How must the form change to express the essence? Oracle. Radical change. On your own day, there is truth and confidence. From the source, creating success. Constancy bears fruit. Regrets vanish. It is time for transformation. The old Chinese character for radical change, which also means leather, shows an animal hide. This is change like a shaman's, putting on a new skin to change your identity. And it is also revolutionary change. This hexagram marks the day when the Zhao people and their allies marched out to meet the armies of the corrupt Shang dynasty and defeated them. You change the governing principle and bring about renewal. In the moment of change, there is truth, sincerity, and a sure knowledge. Then the power of the whole unfolding creative process from the source through to fruition and fulfillment can enter here and change the world. Naturally, regrets vanish along with the past to which they belong. The new time is coming. Image. In the center of the lake there is fire, radical change. A noble one calculates the heavenly signs and clarifies the seasons. The new king must realign the calendar with the stars, bringing his people's daily activities back into harmony with the time. The light of awareness is at the center of things, clear and unambiguous as starlight, and the calendar gives it expression. Inner lucidity illuminates and transforms a way of life, not bringing change for its own sake, but restoring a natural harmony. Sequence. Radical change follows from hexagram 48, the well. The way of the well does not allow things not to change radically. Over time, human regimes fall out of harmony with the way, Tao. Reconnecting with the unchanging source requires you to change the way you live. Pair. Radical change forms a pair with hexagram 50, the vessel. Radical change puts away the old, the vessel grasps renewal. Before you can found the new, you must remove the old. You may need to make deeper changes than you imagined. Once again, we will turn back to our primary hexagram 55, abundance, to read our changing line 5, the line of the ruler, again with the general context of strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. Changing line 5, which is our most focused point of our reading, puts a pin in the map, says we are here, or here are some places we may find ourselves, takes precedence over all other elements. Changing line 5 in hexagram 55, abundance. A thing of beauty coming, brings reward and praise, good fortune. A beautiful new creation is being chosen and designed here. This is to be celebrated. Just as Wu's experience at Fang heralded the coming of the Zhao dynasty, this can usher in a whole new order and bring the gift of confidence and independent strength. I suppose we're already there. Chapter 80 out of the Tao Te Ching we shall read. Translated by Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. A small country has fewer people. Though there are machines that can work 10 to 100 times faster than men, they are not needed. The people take death seriously and do not travel far. Though they have boats and carriages, no one uses them. Though they have armor and weapons, no one displays them. Men return to the knotting of rope in place of writing. Their food is plain and good, their clothes fine but simple, their homes secure. They are happy in their ways. Though they live within sight of their neighbors, and crowing cocks and barking dogs are heard across the way, yet they leave each other in peace while they grow old and die.